Produced in association with Reuters, the world's largest electronic publisher, which provides NVR with news, market data, and communication services worldwide.
President Clinton says he wants to keep the country on the cutting edge of change. And today in California's Silicon Valley, he promised to promote changes to help the struggling high-tech sector. Speaking to employees at the Silicon Graphics company, Mr. Clinton unveiled a program of new business incentives and proposed ways of redirecting defense research funds into other high-tech innovations. Later, the president flew to Washington State to talk to embattled aircraft workers at Boeing, promising them his administration will insist on limiting European subsidies to Airbus. And he pushed for a broad change in the way business is conducted in the United States.
In a global economy in which the things that really pay off are high levels of education and skills, high levels of investment in appropriate technologies, a very close amount of cooperation within each workplace among workers and between workers and management, and in the national sense between government and business and labor. The countries which do that win. Those which don't are punished. And we can no longer afford to wait for 10 years while someone does something to us that we do not respond to.
Some Republicans are asking if the president isn't being two-faced. On one hand, listening sympathetically to airline and aircraft manufacturers, while on the other proposing to raise their fuel costs with an energy tax. But this morning, White House economic advisor Laura Tyson defended the president's plan. She told the Joint Economic Committee the problem in the airline industry is slow economic growth, and overall the Clinton package will help.
We would like to have lower prices of jet fuel. We'd all be better off with lower prices of jet fuel. But you have to take it in context. We have a package here. Boeing will benefit, as other major American producers, small and large, will benefit from having significantly lower interest costs in this society. Boeing will benefit, as will other producers, from having a more rapidly growing economy.
Tyson also said she believes long-term interest rates will drop from their current level of about 4% to about 3%. But she also predicted that the Clinton plan will lead to a slightly higher inflation rate.
The nation's business economists don't think the Clinton economic plan will have much of an impact on growth this year. In their quarterly forecast, the National Association of Business Economists expects growth to come in at just over 3% in '93. Real interest rates should come down about 0.5% by 1994, but job growth will remain sluggish. The economists say the real impact of the Clinton plan will come in 1994 and beyond.
I think it'll have zero impact on 1993. As I pointed out, all of the tax increases, all of the spending is not 93. The risk is that it will have a negative impact on consumer and/or business confidence. The potential is, and the early result is on this side, that people are in fact happy that there is now a serious attempt in Washington to deal with the federal deficit.
The federal government reported a budget surplus of nearly $30 billion in January due to a fluke in the timing of mailing out of Social Security checks. But that's not expected to keep the annual deficit from hitting a record this year.
In a move that could help Japan's trade deficit, the dollar hit all-time lows against the Japanese yen. And traders continue to bet that the dollar is going lower. Lois Allen reports.
In New York, the greenback fell to an all-time low against the Japanese yen at 115.90. Traders say one reason for the sell-off was statements Friday by Treasury Secretary Lloyd Bentsen favoring a stronger yen to help on trade issues.
With Bentsen on the one hand calling for a stronger yen, and with the Japanese on the other hand indicating that they don't mind the level as long as the yen doesn't strengthen too rapidly, that has given the market the courage to go out and buy yen at what are currently record levels.
The dollar came back off its lows against the yen to close at a little over 116, down more than 2 yen. It also finished lower against most other major currencies. Analysts say the market is also focusing on the upcoming G7 meeting in London this weekend. While analysts expect a stronger yen in the short term, they say fundamentals may not support it long term.
I think the market will come around to its senses and realize that there's not a whole lot that G7 can do to achieve a stronger yen. Japan can't raise rates. The U.S. is not going to lower rates in the short to medium term. And frankly, I don't think any central banker wants to intervene and buy yen and sell dollars.
Analysts expect continued volatility in the currency markets ahead of the G7 meeting, with the possibility the dollar will continue to test new lows. Lois Allen, NBR, New York.
Although the stock market lost 70 1/4 points or 2% on the Dow Jones Industrial Average last week overall, Friday's 20-point closing gain inspired a nicely higher opening on Wall Street today, and the Dow advanced nearly 18.5 points by 10 a.m. The early rally ran into resistance during mid-session, however, when the major drug stocks like Merck, Bristol Myers, and Johnson & Johnson posted sizable losses after Smith Barney Brokerage, among others, downgraded them. The biotech group also was a drag after Synergen lost almost 70% of its value in NASDAQ trading. By 1 p.m., the industrial average was up less than 5.5 points, with gainers and losers about even. While the drug and healthcare stocks continued to drop, the big blue chips were lifted for the rest of the session by strong buying interest, and the Dow Jones Industrial Average went on to post a closing gain of 20.81 points at 3342.99. So we closed within 2 3/4 points of the high of the day and 26 points above the worst level. Trading volume perked up about 12 million shares from Friday, but more down volume than up volume by about 11 million shares. The transports finally a gain of 3.42, but the utilities had a huge advance, up just over 6 points. And that the closing tick, incidentally, modestly positive, plus 199. The 500 of Standard & Poor's up just over a point, about a half-point gain in the 100, but the mid-cap 400 fell 1.34. A lot of the mid-cap stocks hit today. Commodity Research Bureau March Index was down 1/10 of a point. New York Stock Exchange Index gaining 1/4 of a point. Value Line down just over a point, and the Wilshire 5000 fell the better part of 7 3/4 points. It was another good day for bond prices amid the growing belief that the Clinton economic plan, with its higher taxes, will keep the economy on a slow track with little change in interest rates or inflation. Against this setting, tax-free and corporate issues rose 1/4 point on average. Longer-term governments jumped between 3/4 and 7/8 of a point, like the 30-year Treasuries, up 26/32, and incidentally, that yield of 6.94% is the lowest since the Treasury began selling those 30-year bonds on a regular basis in 1977. Shearson Lehman Long Bond Index was up 10.36, and Fed funds ending at 2 15/16%. Later, I'll show you where the action was on Wall Street today. Cassie?
Platinum tumbled more than $19 an ounce in New York trading today. The metal has been hurt recently by reports that Japan's automakers won't be buying as much platinum group metals because they expect a decline in car sales. Palladium, part of the group, is used extensively in the production of pollution-reducing catalytic converters. Platinum ended at $338.20 an ounce. Gold dropped $2.02 an ounce, and silver lost 4 cents.
Jobs, jobs, jobs was the theme of the presidential election. Now, as part of his $30 billion stimulus proposal, President Clinton says he has constructed a way to create new jobs and fix the nation's crumbling infrastructure. And already the foundation is being laid for the debate about what impact the plan will have. Rodney Ward reports from Washington.
In presenting his stimulus package to Congress, the president said he wanted to create jobs now and invest in America's long-term future.
Jobs to rebuild our highways and airports, to renovate housing, to bring new life to rural communities and spread hope and opportunity among our nation's youth.
To meet that goal, the president proposes expanding the federal aid to highway program by $3 billion, creating by administration estimates an additional 13,000 jobs in 1993 and 45,000 in 1994. The president's plans call for more spending for mass transit improvements, with an estimated creation of 9,000 jobs this year and next. Amtrak, airports, water construction projects, and construction projects at the nation's veterans hospitals are all targeted for increased funding under the proposal. Long-term, the president is calling for more spending for smart cars and highways, high-speed rapid rail, and possible construction of a magnetic levitation prototype.
We have a lot of basic infrastructure to do and to repair. Those kinds of jobs are the kinds of jobs that bring out people, bring out labor quite directly, quite easily. They're jobs that are off-the-shelf jobs. Every city in America, every area of America has a whole list of things that they would do, should do, if they had the money to do it.
This is simply a political payoff to the people who supported Bill Clinton in the campaign. The mayors right now are drooling over the prospects of all of this new money that they'll have to spend.
In fact, the mayors have prepared to meet the president's challenge to them to ensure that the money requested in his stimulus package be used for projects that are ready to go. And they dismiss the charges that the plan is a big city giveaway.
This has nothing to do with mayors. It has to do with thousands of Americans that are now unemployed that live in cities. It has to do with deferred maintenance of many infrastructure areas, and it's all about putting people back to work and rebuilding America.
But critics of the president's proposal to stimulate the economy through spending on infrastructure say that the president will not get the economic boost he's looking for, nor will there be significant gains in helping solve some of the nation's infrastructure problems.
You cannot immediately convert the money for these investments into projects overnight. It takes a long period of time. Secondly, these types of jobs and the salaries and the amount of people employed generally differ from what we typically get in the economy for these kinds of investments.
A lot of the stimulus takes place before the federal money actually reaches the recipients, because contracts are made, people are put to work in anticipation of the payment of federal money. So the federal money may be paid out later, but the jobs are created immediately.
Republicans on Capitol Hill say the infrastructure spending in the president's stimulus package amounts to a boondoggle of giveaways. They say if the president is really interested in increasing jobs and rebuilding the nation's infrastructure, there are better ways of doing it than pouring more government money into potholes. Rodney Ward, NVR, Washington.
And still ahead on our program, forget your pencils and calculators. We'll look at the latest in tax preparation software for your computer.
One of the original Baby Bells says it will seek FCC approval next month to compete against former parent company AT&T to provide long-distance service. Ameritech wants to open its local telephone network to competitors in exchange for access to the long-distance market. The company also wants access to other communications markets, including cable television and interactive video. Paul, the proposal will need to be approved by Congress and the federal judge who supervised the breakup of AT&T.
America Tech stock was up 1.58 to close at 76, and the Dow Jones Industrial Average had its second 20-point gain in a row, topping Friday's by about a point. And we see we're bucking that 33.43 level, and 110 more issues closed higher than lower, and a lot more new highs than new lows for the year, 178 versus 57. Philip Morris topped the active list, losing another 3.5 points. Now, the latest problem is that scientists say that people who smoke cigarettes have a 30% greater chance to get leukemia. British Petroleum up 1 1/8. Petroleum prices in New York up 40 cents today. RGR Nabisco down 1/4 on that smoking news and leukemia. Merck down 1/4 point. Smith Barney downgraded the whole group of major drug stocks like Merck and Bristol Myers, which fell 3/4, and Johnson & Johnson, which dropped 1.5 points. Citicorp down 0.5 point. A major investor, a Saudi sheikh, is going to be selling a goodly number of shares at a big profit over the coming 3 months. Abbott Laboratories down 1 1/8 in the weak drug group, and then Glaxo Holdings losing 1/8. Mylan Laboratories down 4 7/8. Little different story here. This may be in reaction to possible tax hikes for companies doing business in Puerto Rico. Among widely held issues, American Telephone rose 1/2. Eastman Kodak helping the Dow out with that 1 1/4 point gain. Home Depot was down 1 5/8 despite reporting nicely higher fourth quarter earnings today. 29 cents versus last year's 21 cents. Same store sales in the period up a handsome 15%. I guess selling on the good news. J.P. Morgan up 2 3/4. The stock got a lift from a buy recommendation from Merrill Lynch. Medtronics in the rough group these days down 6.5 points. Company officials say it's just caught in the downdraft in the healthcare stocks. Mellon Bank, however, up 2 5/8 after the Alex Brown brokerage came out with a strong buy recommendation. United Investors Management rising 3 1/8 points. Torchmark is offering to buy the 16% of the common stock of United Investors it doesn't already own for $30.50 a share worth of a new Torchmark convertible debenture bond. Vintage Petroleum up 1 5/8, helped along by A.G. Edwards, which repeated a buy recommendation there. BJ Services Company up 1 3/8. This week's Barron's Financial says the company could benefit from the recovery in North American oil and gas drilling activity. Value Health, which tumbled leveled last week when Shearson Lehman downgraded it, down another 5 5/8. And Haemonetics, which is in the blood processing business, down 3.5 points, could be partially in sympathy with a sharp drop in Synergen. Ramsey HMO down 3.5 after the Raymond James brokerage in Florida downgraded its opinion. NASDAQ trading, look at that loss, 11.19. The NASDAQ hard hit today while the blue chip Dow did well. Trading volume well up from Friday, some 34 million shares more, and about 10 stocks higher for almost every 17 lower. The 100 index fell over 15 points. Intel topped the active list, down 7/8, and then Synergen. Look at that drop, almost 70% of its value with a 28 5/8 point loss. The company itself is disappointed by its Antrol drug phase 3 trials, the results which didn't match earlier results in reducing blood infections. Amgen down 3.5, 3-point loss in Microsoft. U.S. Healthcare down 4. Medco Containment losing 2 1/4. Cisco dropped 2 3/4. Chiron down 5 1/8, and Dell Computer lost just 1/4. Novell down 1 point. Vision Sciences, one of the few gainers in the over-the-counter stock, up 2 1/4. Barron's lead columnist Alan Abelson had some positive comments suggesting the stock might be undervalued. CIS Technologies losing 1 1/4. The company announced today it'll take a one-time charge of $1.5 million against earnings. And Image America down 2 3/8. Raymond James Brokerage lowered its rating a notch on that one. The American Exchange Index down just over 3 points. Volume down about 600,000 shares from Friday. 2 stocks higher for every 3 lower. Hillhaven topped the active list on 1.1 million shares, down 5/8. Champion Enterprises, which makes motorhomes, up 2 1/8. Of course, motorhomes with the low interest rates could have a good market, and also earnings are due next week. Regency Health Services down 1 5/8. The company owns 32 California healthcare facilities. Wrong group to be in today. Finally, after the market closed today, the 20% that's going to be sold of the Dean Witter Discovery Group, 29.5 million shares, will be priced at 27. Could begin trading tomorrow. That's the Wall Street wrap-up. Cassie?
Paul, as the April 15th tax deadline approaches, many Americans are once again agonizing over complicated tax forms. However, help is on the way if you own a computer. Some new and improved software programs are available to make filing easier. Our resident computer maven Scott Gervey offers his own shopper's guide.
This year, the IRS is actually encouraging us to use tax preparation software. 30 million of us did last year. The use of the computer software cuts IRS processing time and reduces data entry errors. But which software to use? Just like last year, 2 packages stand out. Market leader TurboTax from Chipsoft has made tremendous improvements this year. Responding to its competitors, it has added an interview feature called Easy Step that greatly simplifies the process, especially for first-time users.
It also helps you make strategic tax decisions and helps you check for potential tax savings and any audit flags that the IRS might use to alert them to a potential audit.
Last year, Andrew Tobias's Tax Cut from Mecca won the usability contest with its interview feature. But this year, TurboTax has matched that and goes to the head of the class by virtue of its great use of graphics, even in its DOS version. Both programs print full returns ready for filing, and both provide options for nearly paperless electronic filing. A third-party service bureau handles this and tacks on an additional charge. This year, the IRS has added a third option, a highly compressed summary form called the 1040 PC. This form can be mailed directly to the IRS without a middleman or extra fee. To do this with TurboTax, you must request an additional disk from Chipsoft or download the software from a bulletin board. There is no extra charge. But Tax Cut comes with the ability to print the 1040 PC built in. That's a big plus.
You can direct the IRS to deposit the refund directly into your bank account. Now with 1040 PC, to digress for a moment, you can also direct the IRS to deposit your refund directly into your bank account. And this is a big benefit for consumers, and this is the carrot that the IRS is using to lure consumers into using 1040 PC.
Tax preparation software can take a lot of the guesswork and a lot of the pain out of the tax process. But remember, the IRS holds you responsible for the accuracy of your return. The numbers you get out are only as good as the numbers you put in. Scott Gervey, NBR, New York.
Coming up, Alfred Kahn talks about what he really thinks the airline industry needs to prosper again.
Drug makers may have been reaching for the aspirin again today after coming under fire from a congressional subcommittee. Democrats on the panel called for tighter regulation of drug prices, noting drugs sell for less in Canada and Mexico than in the United States. Manufacturers defended their pricing and said increases had been held to just over 5% last year. They warned price controls could hurt research and development as well as competitiveness.
The Securities and Exchange Commission has proposed shortening the time it takes to complete stock and bond trades from 5 days to 3. The agency hopes the plan will promote safer financial markets by reducing the time it takes for the payment of a security to change hands. Calls for improving the system have surfaced since the 1987 stock market crash and the 1990 failure of Drexel Burnham Lambert. The 3-day cycle would take effect in January of 1996.
Several weeks ago, Alfred Kahn, the grandfather of airline deregulation, offered a commentary on this program about the problems facing the airline industry. In our introduction, we said Professor Kahn hinted at the possible need for re-regulation. He says that's not what he meant, and we invited him back to clear up any confusion. Linda O'Brien spoke with him.
Professor Kahn, in your commentary, you pointed out that several big airline companies are in receivership and that we might eventually end up with only 3 or 4 survivors, that the industry's problem is excess capacity, and you said, I see no way of eliminating it painlessly short of comprehensive re-regulation. What did you mean by that?
Well, I'm embarrassed that it was subject to the interpretation that I thought that that was the way to solve their problems. In point of fact, I am opposed to that. If the problem is one of excess capacity, and I don't think there's any way in which we can help the industry directly, except at a cost to the consumer that would be greater than justified. Deregulation and competition have been messy and painful, but they've brought enormous benefits to the public. Even though some people have lost jobs and have suffered, total employment in the industry is up 75%.
But does this mean that ultimately we will see only 3 or 4 survivors?
It may be, but I think most people are becoming less and less confident about that. The fact is that the other carriers seem to have a lot of survival capacity. U.S. Air with its arrangement with British Air, Northwest with its arrangement with KLM, Continental with its arrangement with Air Canada, all look as though they're going to be with us for quite a long time.
Recently, we've seen some airlines, such as United and Delta, arguing that bankruptcy laws ought to be changed, that they ought to be limited because airlines can operate under that protection and compete with the other airlines. What's your view on that issue?
Well, if I were United or American or Delta, I too would be unhappy at having to compete with carriers that were free of their interest obligations and free even to slough off other costs that I had to bear. But that's the way the bankruptcy laws are supposed to work. Everybody in the industry, including American and Delta, have become overcommitted to debt. And the bankruptcy laws are supposed to work for the benefit of the creditors. If the airlines, a bankrupt carrier, can make more money over its out-of-pocket costs by continuing to operate than it's worth on salvage value, then it should continue to operate. And I don't really think there's any future in the idea that you're going to change those bankruptcy laws.
Thank you very much, Alfred Kahn.
Would you like to know which industries may be among this year's stock market winners? If so, join us for a special series of reports and interviews called Industry Watch 93. We'll begin tomorrow with a look at the area of communications technology.
And that's this edition of NBR for Monday, February 22nd. I'm Cassie Seifert in New York. Thanks for joining us. I'll see you tomorrow, Paul.
Good night, Cassie. I'm Paul Kangas in Miami, wishing all of you the best of goodbyes.
NBR is produced in association with Reuters, the world's largest electronic publisher, which provides NBR with news, market data, and communication services worldwide. And is made possible by A.G. Edwards, providing personalized financial services and investment advice to individuals and businesses. A.G. Edwards, a century-old tradition of service to investors. The Franklin Templeton Group's mutual funds include tax-free municipal securities funds, U.S. government securities funds, international growth funds, and money market funds. Digital Equipment Corporation, leveraging investments in information systems for today and tomorrow. People come to us for results. And by the financial support of viewers like you.
If you've tried every kind of medicine and treatment for your illness or pain, perhaps you can explore the use of the doctor we all have inside. Join us tonight as Bill Moyers helps us understand the connection between how we think and our health on the powerful series Healing and the Mind. It starts at 8 tonight, here on 6.
Learn about starting your own business and how to improve your chances of success. Watch NBR's Starting a Business video, featuring advice from 6 Money File commentators. To order by credit card, call 1-800-535-5864.
Presentation of the Nightly Business Report is made possible locally by grants from Colorado National Banks. The law firm of Pendleton and Sabian, PC, with offices in Denver and Boulder. And by your Colorado Lexus dealers.
2 roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by. And that has made all the difference.
All aboard the Orient Express.
This train, you never know who you're going to meet on it.
Encounter intriguing people like Mata Hari and Ernest Hemingway when you join Sir Peter Ustinov on the legendary Orient Express next time on Travels.
Tonight at 7, here on 6.
Hello, I'm Margaret Kelly, Vice President and Regional Director of RE/MAX Mountain States. RE/MAX is the 1993 Anniversary Collection Underwriter, and we are proud of our association with the Channel 6 auction. We urge you in joining us in supporting KRMA Super Auction 93. Contact the auction office for more information.
The Chinese way of healing is rooted in an ancient past. That's a medicine. And it survives today for just one reason. For the Chinese, it works. The Mystery of Qi on Healing and the Mind.
Healing and the Mind starts at 8 tonight.
It's the best-known sweater in showbiz, and it's made thousands of children of all ages feel warm and cozy. Help celebrate Mr. Rogers' 25 years on Channel 6 by donating a sweater for the homeless. Drop off your donation at Channel 6, 1089 Bannock in Denver during regular business hours. Or at Reruns, the Channel 6 thrift shop at 3270 South Broadway, Tuesday through Saturday. Won't you be a good neighbor and pass along that warm, fuzzy feeling with a sweater donation? Don't forget, the deadline is February 26th. We'll take you there. Did you ever wonder?
We'll take you there.
Imagine the feeling.
We'll take you there.
Discover how it all began.
We'll take you there.
Explore our world.
Wherever you want to be. We'll take you there on 6. You're watching Channel 6, KRMA-TV, Denver. This is FYI, your calendar of community events. Capitol Hill United Neighborhoods is currently seeking volunteers to help with its People's Fair at Civic Center this coming June. For additional information, call the CHUN office at 837-1839. That's 837-1839.
Presentation of the McNeil-Lehrer NewsHour is made possible tonight by grants from the Gates Foundation and by Robert Waxman Camera and Video, where your memories come first to make them last.
Good evening, I'm Robert McNeil in New York.
And I'm Jim Lara in Washington. After our summary of the news this Monday, we launch a week-long look at the details of the Clinton economic proposal. We hear the argument over raising taxes, and Judy Woodruff reports on how the plan and the man played in Chillicothe.
Part of helping the world live and communicate better is keeping it well informed. That's why funding for the McNeil-Lehrer NewsHour is provided by AT&T and by PepsiCo. And by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting.